If you've ever wanted to be right underneath the planes as they land just like this is the video for you. Hi, my name is Abby and I love planes. I have loved planes for pretty much my entire life and I have gone plane spotting as long as I can remember. And in fact, it's one of my favorite activities. So today I wanted to do a full 101 tutorial on plane spotting and how to get started and where to look and all the things you need to know. Okay, before you even go to the airport or do any kind of research, the first thing I recommend you download is a flight tracking app. My personal favorite is Flight Radar 24. It is the one that I use every single day and I actually pay for this. I pay about $10 a year, so it is well worth it in my opinion. But two others that I really like are FlightAware and RadarBox. All of them are totally free to use. You don't have to pay for them, and I really recommend it as it's going to make it a lot easier to see what planes are coming and which way they are taking off and landing. So step one is figuring out where the heck you're going to go in order to spot these planes. So there are 3 websites I recommend that you check out. They have entire articles written about different places to stop and watch, how strict security is, how good the views even are, and a ton more information that's going to be really valuable. Especially if you've never driven around your local airport or where you're planning to plane spot, this is going to provide you a wealth of information. The 3 websites are spottersguide.net, airportspotting.com, and spotterswiki.com. All 3 of these websites have pretty similar information, but I do recommend looking up your airport on all 3 of them and just reading through what they have to say. That way you can get differing opinions and see which things all 3 agree on. So then another recommendation I have is to actually Google your airport plus plane spotting. There's probably going to be a Reddit thread about it, to be honest, but there are going to be other websites that I didn't just mention that are specifically about plane spotting at whatever airport you're trying to go to. Sometimes not, especially if you're going to a small local airport, you won't be able to find a ton of information, but most of the big ones have a lot of info out there because plane spotting is pretty popular. So if there isn't info or you're trying to just find other locations that haven't been mentioned on those websites, the next place I recommend to head is to Google Maps and Google Earth. What you're gonna look for are viewing areas. That's an obvious one. Obviously, they've created those areas for you to go sit at, and so you're not gonna get kicked out. It's an easy place to park at. They don't always have the best views, I will say. I live in Cincinnati and we have a pretty good viewing area at our airport. Actually sits at the end of one of the runways. And so when they're landing, they land right over you. Now, they rarely land on that runway. It's pretty uncommon. They mostly land north to south, which goes in front of the viewing area. And so you still get a pretty good view of the planes coming right in front of you, but you're not underneath them, which I really like. And I know a lot of other people really like. So another thing you're gonna look for are parks. That's a really good option because you're gonna be able to, again, park there and not get in trouble, not have any issues. With plane spotting, you realistically have 2 options. You have public property like viewing areas and public parks, and you have private property. Once you're on Google Maps and Google Earth and looking around, if all you can find is private property or you've kind of exhausted your public property options and you're not really into those, what I recommend about that, a lot of times the end of the runway sits right with a road near it. Sometimes that road will have a sidewalk. So what you can do is park far away and just walk there, and then you'll be able to stand there and you don't have to worry about getting kicked out or having your car moved. When it comes to private property, you have the option of either parking there illegally and just seeing if you're gonna get kicked out, which I don't recommend, or you can go in and just actually ask the business if there's somebody there, can I just park in your parking lot and watch the planes? Some people might say yes, but I would just be prepared for a no or be prepared to get kicked out. I do not recommend pulling over on the side of the road unless it is just for a quick second just to see a plane land. Airport security is gonna kick you out if you do that. I pulled over on the side of the road and seen a plane take off really quickly in a lot of different airports and never been kicked out. So that's always an option if you're looking for a specific plane or you just wanna see one. So half the battle is finding where you're gonna go and picking a spot that's going to have good views. But the other half of the battle is figuring out how they're gonna land. So planes always land into the wind and then take off into the wind. So you can use wind predictors to try to predict which way they're gonna land. First, I recommend watching Flight Radar 24 to kind of get an idea of the patterns and how they land. You can also Google the patterns for your airport, but you can also use the website Windfinder, which will give you a wind forecast for the upcoming week. So lastly, I just wanted to quickly mention some of my favorite places to plane spot and some places that are dreams of mine. My 2 favorite places that I've ever been to are Gravelly Point in Washington, D.C. and the In-N-Out Burger that sits at the end of the runway at LAX. Gravelly Point, Washington, D.C. is just one of my favorite places in general, and I just love Gravelly Point. I love the view that you have. LAX has an insane variety of planes and airlines. If I had to recommend one airport for plane spotting, it would be LAX. 5 other plane spotting locations that I really want to go to, and so I thought I would mention, is Myrtle Avenue in London. It sits at the end of Heathrow. It's like a row of homes, and then there's a little park such cool views. Plainview Park in New York sits at the end of the runway at LaGuardia. There's also a restaurant in New York City called Bay House Restaurant. I think it's in Queens technically, but it sits at the end of the runway of JFK. So it has amazing views, specifically of the A380 is like my dream to go there and see it. Another one is St. Martin. The planes land literally right over the beach. It's an incredible view. And lastly, Point Warrenzoff in Alaska sits right near the Anchorage airport, which has an insane variety of planes and a lot of big boys. All right, that is it for my plane spotting 101 video. I hope this gave you some good advice for plane spotting. I will talk to you guys next time.